Hey folks, and welcome back. I am joined by Jamie from Triple Rainbow Games, here to tell us about Fight Sequence. So, Jamie, tell us about Fight Sequence.
Absolutely. So Fight Sequence is my game that is a tactical head-to-head card battler about psychics thinking about fighting. So instead of a rock, paper, scissors mechanic or a stun locking kind of situation, it's reverse action programming. And players have an array of psychic powers that they can use to alter how sequences resolve before they do.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
And
How did you come up with the idea for the game?
Oh man, so in theory, I love fighting games, but in practice, I have very poor reflexes if we're talking video games. And there are a
I
whole bunch
relate.
of, yeah, it's really hard. Like I want to be good at them, but I'm just not good at them. And I've always loved board games, and I've always been into the idea of fighting board games, but all of them are seeking to emulate video games in some way.
Hmm.
And so I wanted something that, like, what if there was something that was more like the fight scenes that you see in you know the the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. I don't know if you've seen those, but how they
Yeah.
have the slow motion backwards fight, and it's like that would be awesome. Why not that? And you actually have time to react and think about what you're going to do because you can see what's going to happen in advance, and then one thing led to another, and it's like, oh yeah, what if everyone was psychic? And that also helps me push the other agenda, which is because everyone is psychic and just thinking about the fights, people with body types that would normally not be in fighting games, such as one of my characters uses a wheelchair, and they're all different like weight classes and stuff like that. So it's not just fit white people in my game, which is
Oh
cool.
my God, I love that. That's so
Yeah.
important. It is so important for us to have representation across all different spectrums of being. And that is so cool that you're doing that.
Yes. Yeah. One of the goals of my company and this game, but in the company in general, is to capture as many different pieces of the human experience and demi-human experience, because not everyone's a human, uh, as possible. So
That is so cool. So is this your first game, 100th game, somewhere in between?
this is my first game that I am pushing to the end of the line, as it
Hmm.
were. I started I started designing games when I was a single digit age. That was like occupying me in between first and second grade. They weren't good games, but they were games technically. Um, but I started this sort of professionally as an adult, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, with the understanding that I would just sort of whip up a ton of prototypes and just cycle through them until I found one that I just never wanted to stop playing. And that happened to be Fight Sequence about 2.5 years ago. So this is my first like official game that I'm pushing to the end of the line, but it is roughly my 12th game in terms of other ideas that I have.
That is so cool. So it's awesome that you're at this stage now. So you said like 2 years that you've been in production with this game?
Yeah, two and a half, something like that. Yeah.
That's incredible. So what's that production process been like and where are you at now?
So I am the point that I'm at now. I have finished the card layout, and I know what I want the game to look like. I have at least the first batch of finished art, so I can whip up a Kickstarter page. The last step is I need to find a graphic designer and
Mm.
finish writing the rule book. And then when those two things happen, I can actually get physical copies that I can send to reviewers. I can get those things and I can build out the Kickstarter page, and then I can launch. Hopefully in about 3 months or so. But every time I try to estimate a launch date, it goes horribly wrong. So I've
Yeah.
just stopped doing that.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
website now says coming in 2021 because I learned my lesson.
You're like, coming at some, it's this
Yeah,
year. It's happening. It's happening this year.
yeah, probably.
Oh. So, what's the team like for the game? Is it just you? Do you have any other collaborators?
I do have a couple of other collaborators. So one is the artist who I hire on a freelance basis.
Awesome.
So she's, I guess, a part-time member of the team, you could say. And then the other full-time member is my best friend and business partner, Anders, who's the co-designer of the game. He doesn't, he basically, he has a hand in everything. He doesn't design the cards. I design the cards, but literally every change that I make, card or otherwise, I run by him for his approval. So it is an extremely collaborative process, which I think is super important to just have someone to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah. How have you handled doing playtesting during COVID?
Honestly, I've been finding it easier to run playtests because before
Really?
COVID, yeah, I was having a lot of trouble wrangling people to playtest regularly. I mean, I'm a member of the Boston Game Makers Guild, so I would go to those meetings. Heck yeah. Woo!
Yeah. Woo!
Um, but then sometimes I just didn't have the energy to go because it was like a 45-minute commute both ways. And so I was going on average once a month. But now
Mhm.
that it's online, I go to literally everything. And there are all these different groups that people are starting to it. Like I can play test for like cumulatively 35 hours a week just on the weekdays now.
Yeah.
So it's actually helped a lot,
That's
which is a weird thing
incredible.
to say. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And I love that Game Makers Guild has been such a fundamental part in like making that happen. So huge shout out to Game Makers Guild for
Heck
running
yeah.
events like that all the time to make this possible. I feel I've been hearing that these kinds of stories from people that like they feel like they're more connected to the board game development community in COVID than they have been outside of it.
Yeah. I super believe that, and I also feel that way.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So good
It's
job,
I'm
Game
meeting
Makers Guild.
heck yeah.
So what's next for the company?
That is a great question. So what I'm trying to do loosely, I don't have a concrete plan for this because I haven't launched the first set of fight sequence, but every good fighting game has an expanding cast.
Hmm.
And so my plan is to just pump out several fight sequence sets and supplemental products and stuff before I start exploring other things, mostly because I want to gain enough traction that making other games makes sense because I can design them in parallel or I have other people joining me that are interested in stuff like that. But for right now, for the foreseeable future, it's just work on a bunch of fight sequence sets. Um, Hopefully it is popular enough that I can sustain that. And if not, then I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.
Excellent. Oh wait, so as your Kickstarter, or have you already launched a Kickstarter or is that coming up?
No, I am hopefully launching in the spring.
Okay,
Uh,
cool.
but every time I estimate, I get it wrong. So now the website just says coming in 2021, and I'll update it when I actually like have a Kickstarter page up.
Yeah.
That's when I'll start solidifying dates. But I'm hoping like April, May, tax season, that kind of thing. But we'll see. We'll see.
Excellent. It's a good time to do it, right? Everyone's getting their refund, hopefully, and willing to
Yeah,
spend it on
yeah.
backing
I
some
mean,
cool
and the game is
projects.
probably going to be like $20, so it's going to be an
Awesome.
easy buy for many, an impulse buy, hopefully.
Excellent. So okay, so you've been working on stuff professionally for the last 6 years. Like, let's say someone's just trying to break into the industry for the first time. They've never done this before, but they want to do what you do. What advice would you have for them?
So my number one rule is try everything. Just whatever you think of, whatever mechanics and rules you think of, whether you think it's too simple, too complex, whatever it is, because you never know what's going to work. And especially early in a design process, you will never, like the game that you finish will never be the game that you start with. And you will always discover more by putting it in front of people, getting that feedback. And even just the process, sometimes the process of trying to make a specific mechanic work leads you to be inspired to make a better mechanic. So just
Yeah.
try stuff out, just do it.
Try everything.
Try everything.
Play test it early and often.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Well, so where can people find out more about the game, like plugs? Where can people follow you on Twitter,
Ooh.
all that other good stuff?
Yeah, so the full company name doesn't fit on Twitter. So it is Tri Rainbow Games, TRI Rainbow Games. Triple Rainbow Games on Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. I'm less active on those, but I'm trying to ramp up Twitter a little more. The two websites, both will lead you to the game and the company, triplerainbow.games and fightsequence.com. Excuse me, spelled exactly how they sound.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me and for talking about Fight Sequence. I am really excited
Yeah.
to play it and to see what it's all about.
Heck yeah, play it at FIG. It'll be a good time.
Excellent. Well, we'll
Thank
see you at Boston Fig.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure.